And we're back. All right. So now we're going to go on to family and romantic relationships. So let's get me small here and let's get started. All right. First, let's talk about parenting relationships. There's basically three styles of parenting relationships that we're going to discuss, or that the book discusses. The first one is authoritarian. That is the my way or the highway kind of person. That's the don't talk back to me or I'll smack you upside the head kind of person. It's because I said so. That's that person. The next one is authoritative. Not authoritarian, but authoritative. That is that person that is, okay, you're going to do it because I said you had to do it. However, we can discuss this and I can explain to you why it is that I feel that you need to do this. And so authoritative parents are more inclined, yes, they're still the boss. However, they're more inclined to be more explanatory, to let you know why it is, what it is they're trying to, their reasoning behind their decisions. And the last one are permissives. Those are those, for lack of a better term, hippies. The ones that let your kids just run wild. Don't spank your child. Don't ground them. No negative anything. Everything should be positive. These are the ones that allow their kids to do anything and everything. Now, one thing I want to point out is in my life, I am on my second marriage. You're going to hear about Angie here in a minute. That's my first wife. But I'm in my second marriage. I have now raised 4 stepchildren. My first marriage was with Angie. I had stepchildren age 7, 6, and 2, and I was married to her for 9 years. Well, 8 years and then separated one. But anyway, I can tell you that no 2 children are alike. No 2 children respond to the same style of parenting. The eldest child, Jessica, you had to be authoritarian. You had to just tell her, this is what you're going to do. No amount of discussion helped her. No amount of anything helped her. You just had to do it. The middle child, Shauna, she was one of those that you didn't even have to spank her. I don't recall ever spanking her. I don't actually recall spanking Jessica. I put that on her mom. But anyway, the problem is that Shauna, you could beat Jessica with an inch of her life. Shauna, on the other hand, the middle child, you look cross-eyed at her. She'd go crying and that was it. We're done. So when you start and think that which is the best parenting style, it's going to have to alter based on the child that's being parented. So don't stop and think that anything and everything is the end-all, be-all best thing. Those single child parents that had the wonderful child that always did what you told them and never talked back and all that stuff, say, this is the way you should always raise your child. They didn't have Jessica. Anyway. Let's talk about sibling relationships now. There's several of these. The first one are supportive. Those are the ones that, you're good friends with your sibling. Usually you're probably pretty close at age level and those kind of things. Now, my next one is longing. Those are the ones where you miss your sibling. Excuse me. Those are where you're separated. For example, me and my sister. My sister, who is 16 months older than me, lives in Virginia. I live here, obviously. We don't see each other very often. It's that kind of relationship. That's the longing one. The next one is competitive. And some of you have those where you're always trying to either compete for mom and dad's attention, or it's always this. It's me versus you. And it's never about us as a group. It's always at odds with each other, always button heads. The next one are apathetic. You communicate religiously. And by religiously, I mean on Christmas and Easter. Those are the ones you see every once in a while. My eldest brother and I are kind of that way. If there's a family, something that came up, we'll talk. If, occasionally they'll call me on my birthday, I'll reach out to them on a birthday. We'll see them once in a while, maybe once or twice a year at most. Really not that connected. And of course, the last one are just flat out hostile. Now, in my family, I had 2 siblings that were literally, one was probably apathetic, but the other one was out and out hostile. Granted, had justification from childhood, understandably, but that is the hostile, the ones that are attacking. Some of you all have those relationships, or you've had some form of this relationship with your siblings. Now let's move on to romantic partnerships really quick. And we're going to talk about the stages of communication in romantic partnerships. We're going to walk through, there's, 10 stages, I guess. So let's walk through them together. The first one is initiating. It's that seeing that person across the room. And it's the idea of just getting started when you first meet. And you're like, oh man, I got to talk to this person or whatever. It doesn't have to be like love at first sight, but it's the maybe we can talk, those things. Then we move into the experimenting phase. And it's that feeling each other out, kind of getting to know each other. It's that whole to and from, starting to work. You know, we talked about self-disclosure. We're going from that rather shallow stuff now, moving more into the deep. We're starting to relinquish. And then we move into intensifying. That's when we really start getting down into what actually we know about each other. That's getting that understanding, that building, that rising up to become very close, to become the end of the next stage, which is integrating. That's going from the me and you to the we. That's us becoming a part. And you know when you've done this, when you start referring to each other as we. It's like, well, we don't like those kind of TV shows, or we don't do these things, or we go out, or we went here, we do these things. Everything's we. It's not me and you. It's our vacation, not my vacation. It's those things. That's that idea of it. And then, of course, you move into the bonding phase, and that's when it's like public. Everybody knows now. You've let everybody know. It's posted on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You've told your parents about the relationship. You're probably at a point of being married or whatever. All right. So as you can see, it does slowly grow like this. Sometimes it grows differently. Sometimes it's faster. Sometimes there's not a lot. I've got a friend that did the initiating phase, and because it was an online thing, really kind of skipped experimenting and went right on into intensifying, and is currently moving into the integrating phase. And it's that idea of everybody doesn't follow the same pattern, but we do kind of follow the same basic structure. Now, once you've got your relationship, you're in your relationship, and it starts degrading. The communication between you starts degrading. That's that differentiating. That's where we start separating that out again. No longer is it we. It's, I'm going to go on vacation. Let me do this. You do that. I want to play games. I want you to do that. I want you to do these things. Instead of you and I discussing as a we, as together, now we're separating it apart. And then we move into circumscribing, which is separating it completely. And circumscribing is literally drawing circles. And we're literally taking my bit and your bit and say, this is mine, that's yours. You know, this is my space, my kitchen, your living room, my stuff, your stuff. It's no longer we. We're really getting that straight part. So when we talk, we do that. We start talking about the nonverbals. We talk about the territories, and that it's the mine and yours and us, those things. All right. Eventually, our communication starts to stagnate. And that's when we no longer really talk to each other at all. We're at a point where we're just like, we're really not up there. It's boring. It's whatever. We communicate through necessity, but we don't necessarily just have fun conversations like we did over in the intensifying stage. Eventually, we start getting to the point where we just avoid each other. I leave post-its for comments, or you text me, but we don't really talk that much. I try to dodge you. I may stay in another room instead of being in the room with you. These are the reasonings behind it. So these are things that are happening. And of course, the absolute final stage, which is terminating. All right. So let's look at this. And if we think about this in a structure, sometimes we look at it and it goes up and comes down. Well, you can cruise communicating, and you can all of a sudden jump back across and come down and backtrack. Everything is not always linear. Everything doesn't follow that fixed pattern. Sometimes you come up, you start working down, you come back over, and you're just sitting right in this little circle here. Or maybe you're just going beep, 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 beep. You know, so whatever you're doing, the pattern, although we all follow to some basic degree of this, how we communicate with our romantic partners, it's not always the same. All right. Last bit, let's talk about love language. Love language is kind of one of those touchy-feely things that people don't want to stop and think about, but it is the way in which we express our feelings for each other. This is how we express it, whether it's romantic, whether it's friendship, whatever the case may be, whether, you know, it's the intimacy, it's the outward expression. It's how how we present our love for each other. And yes, I realize that the English language has love and that's it. And yet we have like 100 different kinds of love. We have love of friendship, love of brother, love of parent, love of, romantic partner, all those kind of things. Some of them cross borders. Some of them it's friend and parent. Some of it's, friend and lover or whatever. So, but we have those things. So let's look at it this way. The first one is affirming words. Sorry, I looked at the GIF. Those are things that we'll tell him, I love you. I appreciate you. You are beautiful. These are what I tell you when I'm in love with you and that I want you to understand. The next one are quality time. We're going to go spend time together. We're going to go just sit in the living room. We're talking about being and doing friends. Sometimes you have being and doing relationships and romantic. Sometimes it's doing. Maybe you guys need to go out and have ice cream or coffee. Maybe it's just sitting and watching TV together. That's the quality time. That's how I express my love for you or my feelings for you, is that I want to spend quality time with you. Some people believe in giving gifts, and it's not necessarily buying love. That's just how they express it. So I want to give you this gift. I'm going to give you jewelry. I'm going to give you whatever. And the next one is like physical touch. And no, I'm not necessarily talking about sex, although sex is part of that or can fall into that category. It can be just the hug. It can be the resting your hand on the shoulder. Let's go to the football analogy. It's patting somebody on the butt as they go out on the field. It is expressing your love for this person by actually having physical contact with them. The next one is acts of service. There are plenty of people, stupid thing didn't come up right. There are plenty of people that do things for people they love. They help them out. They will do the dishes for their spouse. They will go do the grocery shopping. They will go grab a charger for somebody only because they care about the person, and they're expressing their feelings towards that person, and whether it be a friend or whatever. But that's the way they do things. They are the ones that do things for you. So if you think about when you say, well, you never tell me you love me, that may be not that person's style of love language. So when you think about communication, you think about love languages, think about that and how you express. Think about how you express, and then think about how your people express to you.